Okay, you guys. I'm recording another book review. This book review is for Jennette McCurdy's I'm Glad My Mom Died. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Number one, I love Jennette McCurdy. I always have, probably like most people. I really love her character Sam Puckett from iCarly. I'm looking wild. It's after work. I love her character. I loved her character Sam Puckett from iCarly. You kind of connect with her character a little bit more on the show than you do with some of the others. I think her characters. I mean, if you've never seen the show, go watch it. But then after that, she had a brief stint in a music career. She had a podcast that I listened to regularly. The podcast came later, but then she also had a show on Netflix. So on the podcast, she hints at a lot of this stuff. So the podcast, she talked about, she also briefly had a YouTube channel. So on the podcast, she talks about some of her struggles. Spoiler alert. She talks about some of her struggles with her eating disorder. She never really mentioned her mom from what I remember, but she did talk about her, journey with acting. So like, it was no surprise to me the portions on acting and why she doesn't like acting, etc., etc. And now, like, her newest project is this book, I'm Glad My Mom Died. So I love personal essay books. I love memoirs. Like, this is one of my favorite genres to read. Like, it really is. I always attribute another book by Elaine Welteroth. It's a personal essay book as a book that like completely changed my life and shifted the way I think. Like, after I read that book, I was like, I'm doing things differently. I got a new job. I tripled my salary. I left like a dead end relationship. The book is called More Than Enough if you want to check that one out. But like I said that to say this is one of my favorite genres. I read these all the time, especially on Audible because they're normally read by the author. This one is read by Jennette McCurdy. Like, Will Smith's was really good. It was read by him. Elaine Welteroth, Jennifer Lewis, Gabrielle Union, like, they're all really great. I love reading them. And this one I was really excited for. And I gotta tell you, out of the millions of personal essay books I've read, this is by far one of the most depressing books I've ever ingested. This girl's childhood, or this woman's childhood, like, I hope that she knows it is no small feat for her to have like a day where she does not have mental health issues. It's ridiculous, some of the shit that she went through, like horrific even. And I'm like getting ahead of myself here, but she discusses a lot of gnarly stuff from her childhood. The Twitter version is, she discusses a lot of gnarly stuff from her childhood. Her mom was abusive. She had an eating disorder that her mom encouraged. She was forced into acting, learned very quickly that she does not like acting. She was acting to please her mom. Her mom ended up getting cancer, and it still ended up being a really toxic, negative relationship, even with the distance. Then she struggled with bulimia, then she struggled with alcohol abuse, and she's now at a place where she's finally realizing who she is as a person and what she will and will not accept, which I think is wonderful. And like, she even made a point in the end of saying that her and Miranda Cosgrove, the actress who plays Carly on iCarly, are still great friends. And when Miranda called her about this reboot, she said no, it wasn't worth her mental health. And I think if more people would do that for themselves, we as a group of human beings, as a society, would be better people. Like, you should always stand up and vouch for yourself, even if it's something that other people want you to do. You don't have to do it. And I think that's beautiful that she knew that acting is bad for her health. And no matter what nostalgia you have or I have, she was not doing the iCarly reboot because she didn't want to trigger her bulimia. She didn't want to trigger her alcohol issues. She didn't want to trigger her issues with her mom. Like, When I tell you this book was a crazy ride, it was a crazy ride. And there are a lot of things that I feel like I took away from it that I think are worth mentioning. I really found it interesting that I'm going to be picking with my appearance the whole video because I think I look horrible. I found it interesting that she never mentioned Dan Schneider, but you know that it's him. So if you don't know the drama of Dan Schneider, there are great YouTube videos about it. I can link them below. But Dan Schneider is the creator of a lot of really popular Nickelodeon shows. iCarly, Victorious, Drake and Josh, The Amanda Bynes Show, like the list goes on. Like, he made Nickelodeon a lot of money, but eventually it came out that he essentially is a horrible person. He was emotionally abusing the kids, probably sexually harassing the kids. Like, I like alleged, right? But there are videos of like these young children being uncomfortable. So throughout the book around him, and then voicing that they were uncomfortable, and then Nickelodeon eventually, you can look this up, Nickelodeon eventually dropped him as an executive producer because of these allegations and the things that they have found and some of the inappropriate things. Like, a lot of these shows, to include iCarly and like Sam and Cat and Victorious, has a lot of foot fetish content in it. Go watch this stuff, you guys. I'm not kidding. Go look it up. If I find some good videos, I'll link them below so you can watch them. This man was horrible. He was abusing children, and Nickelodeon, it caught up to him. Nickelodeon found out. It's the reason why a lot of his shows were canceled. Like, she even says in the book towards the end of iCarly and Sam and Cat, he was not allowed on set with them because he wasn't allowed to be near the kids. And she said it just made the days on set even longer because he was like in another room watching from a monitor, but he was still giving all his comments. Girl, a mess. So the whole Dan Schneider thing was a mess. And I thought it was interesting that she never mentioned him by name. She just kept saying the creator. But if you follow this stuff, you know that it's Dan Schneider. And another thing that I felt was interesting is that she says towards the end of her Nickelodeon career, they tried to offer her like a payout, basically hush money. Like, they offered her $300,000 to never speak about Dan Schneider. And in her young mind, she knew that it was hush money and she turned it down. And I wonder, bro, like, I truly wonder if that's why you don't hear like larger stars talking about this, right? Because they probably were paid that hush money. Like, think about it. Like, Ariana Grande was probably paid that hush money because why are you being quiet? Like, there are videos of her visibly uncomfortable around this man and shoving her foot in her mouth because he told her to, and a whole bunch of other crazy shit. Like, that's child abuse, bro. But they don't talk about it, but it was probably because of what she said, like, in her mind. So, like, to talk about her state of mind for this, she had just lost her mom. She had just, realized she's quit acting. She's in a bad mental state. But even in that moment, she had the clarity to say, no, I don't want this hush money. Not to say that those other people are less than because they didn't have that clarity, but I say that to say that she had a certain amount of fuck it in her system because she's done with acting. She's got this terrible relationship with her mom, her family, and her love life is down the toilet. So she's just like, fuck it, I don't want this hush money. And I think that's interesting that at least we got one person out of this that didn't sign an NDA, because I'm sure they had to sign something too with the hush money. So it's like, here's this $300,000, never speak on this again, right? Another reaction I have from the book is that the title is really harsh, bro. Like, I mean, the title of the book is called I'm Glad My Mom Died, and I find that very harsh, very harsh. But then when you read all the things that her mom did to her, it's like, you probably are. But then with that, she made a point that really resonated with me, because I see people do this all the time. And it's like, why do we only think about the amazing things of people when they have passed on? Like, why are we so determined to imagine them and to think of them in this beautiful light when they might not have been beautiful people? you know? And like she was having that conversation towards the end of the book where, I mean, she doesn't come right out and say my mom is garbage, but she's essentially saying, yeah, my mom was garbage. Why is it that we are determined to remember people through these rose-colored glasses once they pass? And I found that point very interesting, and it's one that I agree with. Like, yeah, I won't elaborate on that, but I see people around me who like have these really shitty people around them, then they pass and they're like, oh, but they were so, and not to say that they weren't those things, but they were also those shitty people you were complaining about when they were alive, right? So she made that point. I love how open she was with her mental health struggles as well, because it's like a lot of people like to sweep that stuff under the rug. And I love that she did link her bulimia to her mental health struggles, which it's probably needed, right? I also want to touch on how I felt, spoiler alert, when her therapist told her that her mom was abusive. So she went through 2 different therapists in the book, and the first therapist she dropped because she was hinting that her mom was abusive, and she wasn't ready to hear that at the time. She dropped the therapist and dropped therapy. But then her bulimia coach or therapist like straight up told her, this was abuse. Your mom abused you. And like when he said that, because you read the book and you really go down this journey with her mom, and how you learn how close they were. They did everything together. Like her mom was showering her until she was like 18, 17, 18, which is abuse, bro. She said she was giving her like vaginal exams and breast exams. That's abuse. It's child abuse. And then it's like her therapist is telling her that. And even like knowing that, right? I know that is abuse. But even knowing that, her therapist is telling her, and it just came off so harsh to me after reading through all of her love and her experiences that she had with her mom, that I can only imagine how it was for her in therapy to hear, yeah, your mom was abusive. She was abusing you. That was wild. That was a wild experience. I will say that this book, like, it is one of the most depressing, traumatic books I've ever read, and it just keeps going. Like, even in this video, I'm already at 13 minutes, but in this video, I haven't touched on some of the relationships she had, which were awful. All of them just seemed like not healthy situation type deals. It just was not. Like, this girl has had a lot of trauma in every avenue of life. And I am glad that she is in a place where she knows that it's trauma. I'm glad that she's in a place that she has a therapist. I'm glad that she's in a place where she knows that she's in active recovery for her disorders and her everything else, and her mental health, everything else that's going on, and her alcohol abuse and all that fun stuff. I will say once again, I feel like it's funny because I wrote this down on my notes and I was like, is this just my theme for this channel? But once again, the adults have let down a child, and it's really sad because, like, she said that the house that she grew up in, they called a hoarder house. It was like filled with shit, and they slept on mats on her living room floor, and she lived there with her mom, who was clearly and obviously abusing her. Her dad, who, spoiler alert, turns out not to be her dad, her biological dad, and her mom kept from her that she had an affair and whatever else. And two of her grandparents were living there. And when I tell you, I'm sure it was a small house, like they were all sleeping in the same room. Are you telling me none of these adults stepped in to tell this woman to cool it? Like her mom, so she was homeschooled, she never went to school. Her mom was the one who introduced her to eating disorders. Her mom was the one who was like, you need to start counting your calories and restricting your calories. Her mom. But you're telling me out of the 4 adults there, one is being abusive and the other 3 are just Jennette McCurdy isn't eating any food. She's eating steamed vegetables for a day. That's all she's eating. The adults let her down, bro. They really did. And then there's at one point she does say her grandma she had like OCD tics, and her grandfather was trying to like intervene and tell her mom that she needed to take her to therapy or to the doctor for it, and the mom said no. But like, you gave that one attempt and that was it. And then she said her dad one day, like she had this very strict acting and dance schedule, and her dad like basically helped her play hooky and got her ice cream and stuff. But that's one memory, or 2 memories to include the granddad one. That's 2 memories out of 18 years of abuse. Bro, fucking wild. So again, the adults have let her down. She seems to be in a better place now, and I'm glad that she knows her boundaries, what it is that she wants to do, and where her lines are. And if one day she decides to come back to acting, then she decides to come back to acting. But I don't think that she will. It seems, and honestly, it probably has such a negative connotation to it at this point. Yeah, so that's my review of Jennette McCurdy's book. I'm glad my mom died. It is a sad read, but it's a fast read, and a lot of it you're just like, what the fuck just happened to you? Yep. That's all I got. Subscribe to my channel. Tell your friends to subscribe. I'm trying to get my subscribers up. Up. Thank you very much.